Ok. Muchas gracias, Muchas gracias. Bueno, bienvenidos. Welcome, everyone. It's been amazing, the answer of the Spanish community coming to this event. So, muchísimas gracias por haber venido. Muchísimas gracias. Well, we have a nice venue. We have a lot of amazing people here, but we also have people at home and people watching this in meetup groups through live stream. So I'm going to ask you to join me in an applause for all your contribution, because this only can be possible with you. So thank you to you for coming here. Well, there are a lot of new things happening around WordPress, a lot of excitement. So 2024 is going to be a really interesting year. And by the way, for the people who don't know me, my name is José Ramón Moncho, Mon. I'm the head of Spanish Communities and Growth in Automattic. And well, this is a very special day, because we are really proud of being in the group of cities that have hosted this event, the State of the World. And we are deeply grateful for Madrid to be selected as host for 2023. So thank you so much for this decision.
Muchas gracias. Thank you.
What else? Well, we are going to start with the Q&A. This year we are going to do something special. For the people who is here at the event, for the people who is watching in TV and live streams in meetup groups. So we are going to use an application, a tool called Slido. And you can start scanning this QR code, and it works very simply. Scan the code. If you have any problem scanning the code, you also have this URL and the code. And from that moment, you can start sending your questions. Taking into account we are expecting a large Spanish audience, you can also send it in Spanish, not only in English. So, free to do it. And there will be a moderator organizer, some group of people that is going to work on receiving and filtering the questions. So we are expecting valuable questions, really, I don't know, whatever you want to ask, but with sense. Okay. And let's start. Let's go to the next question. And next start, I'm waiting for the first questions to arrive. So can we move the slide for the next one? So, right.
We need that Jeopardy music. Do, 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 do.
We need some music as a background. So, this is moving fast. We are going to see, well, we can...
Yeah, I can start at the top here.
Well, which one do you prefer? I think...
And these are being voted on, so people are voting on these, so the ones at the top are the most votes?
Yeah, these are the ones we received, and they are already moderated.
Cool.
So, what about the question coming from Colin? When will plugin developers finally receive better statistics about their plugin hosted on WordPress.org? Now in green.
Growth, more precise install count, etc.
Yeah.
It's a good question. So we have been focused on the plugin directory. A lot of the work recently is around these live previews. So the probably most exciting thing for plugin developers today is that now you can create this blueprint.json file, add it to your plugin repository, and create sort of a pre-set up WordPress to show exactly, like people can try out your plugin before installing it. I think this is going to be incredible for adoption and things. I saw Joost nodding. He thinks it's cool too. One of the top plugin developers in the world. Is it cool? All right. Oh, he said it's awesome. So that's a pretty good endorsement. So check that out. around the stats, it is something that we've heard as a request, and we will make some changes there. I don't have anything to announce or promise today, or I would have put it in the presentation. But thank you for reminding us about it. There's definitely probably the next thing that will change there is right now some of the rounding maxes out. And there's actually a number of plugins over 5 million installs now. So I'd like to add some new levels there so we can see how many millions above 5 they are at. So maybe look for that next. And then we'll do some other things for the plugins that are under 5 million in the future. Okay, this is a good one. Spanish omelet potatoes with or without onion.
Don't take sides, please. Don't take sides.
Is this like pineapple on pizza?
Typical Spanish discussion all over the country.
So I think I'd say if I was going to be talking to people a lot, I'd maybe do it without onions. But if it's just me, with onions, come on.
Okay, let's go with the next one. There is someone submitted by email. So can you say more about your plans to integrate ActivityPub further into WordPress? Do you see this becoming a canonical plugin this next year?
Yes. So there is now there's 2 great plugins around what I'd call the Fediverse or the open web. One is called Friends, and one is called ActivityPub. Right? And they are both available. ActivityPub has been upgraded to be a community plugin, and it's actually something Automattic ended up hiring the developer, and we've been sponsoring the development. We have launched it and made it available on WordPress.com, and actually that team is going to be working next on bringing that to Tumblr. So Tumblr, we're going to explore joining the Fediverse. Now, will it be a canonical plugin? So to me, canonical plugins are more for things that we feel like are really in the critical path. So being a community plugin means that it's, in the taxonomy of plugins, that means that it kind of belongs to everyone. It'll never have a pro version or a commercial version, and the maintenance can be shared. So it's kind of open to contributions. The ActivityPub plugin only has like 5,000 installs so far. So again, the feedback loop of some of the stats on WordPress plugins are showing that this isn't a huge demand so far. So it might be something we consider incorporating or promoting more if it were to get more usage. But today, there's just something about kind of the integration that isn't right. So obviously, we need to grow that, or just the Fediverse needs to grow more for it to be something that's more people are interested in. Cool, thank you for that question.
Yeah, it's going fast. I think we're going to answer the one related monetization. What is the future for the monetization of blogs? Can blogs compete? How should 10-year-old blogs move forward?
That's a good question. Well, moms can always compete. They're amazing. Moms run the world. So I think that it is true that advertising as a way for monetizing blogs is kind of less interesting than it used to be. And I would say the ads ecosystem, if your name is not Google or Facebook, with some of the, I think, well-meaning, regulation around GDPR and cookie pop-ups and everything, what they typically have done is sort of entrenched the incumbents, the giant duopoly of Google and Facebook, and they've made it a lot harder for independent publishers to make money from ads. Because, again, these things, I think, were done with the intention of privacy and targeting, but they've really made it harder for individual bloggers. I don't really see that going backwards. And in fact, Chrome's talking about eliminating all third-party cookies, everything like that. So I think programmatic advertising for not just blogs, but really for all websites that aren't those two is going to get worse and worse. And we've seen this with Tumblr as well. Post the acquisition of Tumblr, even as the traffic was growing, the amount that it was making from ads was going down, programmatic. So now, what would be ways to get around that? Well, first and foremost, the thing that's never going to get old is developing an audience, and particularly a direct relationship with the audience. So get them subscribing to you via RSS, via email. There's a great new Jetpack has a cool feature that can post to a Telegram channel. So I think actually distribution via messaging is going to be a very, very interesting way for blogs to get more traffic and relationship to the readers in the future. So developing that audience is the first and foremost thing. And what will never go out of style is creating great content. And that means sharing, being authentic, being vulnerable, sharing your story, create things that are interesting, both to yourself And if you do that, I believe an audience will come. Once you have that audience, I think that there's other ways to monetize. So for example, you could sell them things, like a t-shirt or something. I'm seeing a lot of fun. People are getting more used to subscribing to things. So you could have a donation or a membership on your site. I think that's very, very interesting. And maybe sponsorships. So direct sponsorships where, much like mini podcasts, they're not selling programmatic ads, they're getting a direct sponsor to come in. Could be really valuable. And so, Kevin Kelly has this amazing essay where he talks about 1,000 true fans, where maybe all you need, where before you needed an audience of hundreds of thousands or millions to create sort of a sustainable revenue stream. Now you might just need 1,000 people. If you get 1,000 people to spend $100 per year with either you or someone who's sponsoring you, that adds up pretty quickly. So I think that is the future, and it's going to be much more people-centric. So it's not going to be about getting millions of page views of people you don't know. It's going to be getting a direct line of engagement to people who know you, and you can cultivate that relationship. That's my theory about it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, there are like 2 or 3 in the top. Can we start with Birgit Olsen? Can you comment on the evaluation of switching from Slack to Matrix? What are your thoughts?
Oh, yeah. This didn't really make the presentation, but we're actually going to announce that we're putting this on hold.
Okay.
So there's been some amazing work for developing Matrix and creating a bridge and something called chat tricks where you can kind of get to it on websites. We'll keep that live because it is an alternative way. I believe we have two-way sync going right now between Matrix and Slack. But you probably saw like some of the licensing just changed around Elements. They switched it to AGPL, which is, we're not as big a fan of that license. And some of the user experience is not quite there yet. And there have been some concerns raised about accessibility as well. I actually think the accessibility stuff, we figured out multiple ways to get around it. So that's not a great reason to stay just on Slack. But for the foreseeable future right now, we're putting that on hold, and we're going to make Slack kind of the primary way. For those who don't know, we have this amazing kind of sponsorship from Slack where actually every single WordPress.org member can get a Slack account. So anyone with a WordPress.org account can sign up, get on the WordPress.org Slack, and it's a great way to participate in some of the teams we've talked about, to get involved with these data liberation projects. You can join the Data Liberation Front, be a freedom fighter for the open web in that way. You can do that all through Slack, and it's a really great way to stay connected. This actually reminds me, do we have like a Spanish language channel on the Slack?
We've got a lot of local Slack that are using just the free layer of Slack services.
So he said that they have a local version, a free version that's separate. You shouldn't need to do that. So that's something we can do, is actually create some official channels for the different language communities on the official Slack.
We have been talking a bit about this, and it had been turned down a couple of times, but with your support, I think we should get a little bit closer to that. So thank you. Then I know what to do. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, on the free Slack, you lose history, it doesn't have features, like you lose a bunch of stuff. There's no reason that you should have to have a separate one. So I apologize that you've been stuck in something. But state of the words and Q&As are a great way to fix that. So thank you for asking the good questions.
Well, we are going to answer this because it's in the podium for the last, from the beginning, from Moses Sebugufu. How can AI empower WordPress users by holding openness, freedom, and community?
So again, I think first and foremost, it's going to be the two things I talked about in the State of the Word, I think are really key. So first, using these AI tools as essentially productivity enhancers. And just like learning to read or learning to code was sort of a basic element of literacy in the modern age, I believe that learning to use these tools effectively is probably one of the most important skills any of us can pick up. It's often called prompt engineering, and basically it's the art of asking the tool to help you. By the way, this is also one of the weirdest areas of technology right now. So if you follow this, there's actually been some funny stuff where new versions of ChatGPT have gotten lazier. Has anyone seen this? So literally, things that you would ask it to do a few months ago, if you ask it now, it'll be like, just Google this. It won't actually do it anymore. And so, but there's tricks to ask it in different ways that get it to do it. And the two kind of strange tricks that have been working, and again, this must be temporary because this seems like a bug, is if you want it to type out something like code, you can pretend to not have fingers. So you tell it that, please do this for me because I'm not able to type myself. The other strange thing that is working right now is you can offer to tip it. So you say, if you do this, I'll give you $200. You don't actually have to do that. It's just a weird thing with the models. So it's really very much, again, it's a very exciting time to be alive. It does feel like we're creating kind of new intelligence or new life forms. And they are going through their teenage years where they're getting a little rebellious. Who knows what happens next? But definitely follow prompt engineering. It's a really interesting kind of part. The stuff I just mentioned must be a bug. I'm sure that'll be gone in a month or something. But basically, the point I'm trying to make is that learning how to ask these tools what to do is very important. So if you just say, hey, build me a plugin, it's not going to work. But you could say, learn how to ask it step by step for instructions, or how to sort of talk to it in a certain way that will allow it to become a really amazing productivity enhancer. And the second thing, which we already talked about, is education. So if there's anything you want to learn, try as maybe a complement to reading Wikipedia pages or taking online courses, talking to the chatbots about it and asking them to explain things. It's been really powerful for me where I felt like I had gaps in my knowledge around physics or weather or some other meteorology, something like that. Talking to this is a great way to learn. Now, of course, they can make mistakes too, so they what's called hallucinate. So pair it with Googling and reading the Wikipedia, et cetera, but a really, really powerful way to enhance your education.
Thank you so much. Michael from Nitropac, great presentation. Do you believe Gutenberg and data liberation are two of the ways we go from 43 to 85% market share? What else is going to increase adoption?
I do believe that the data liberation is key for growing the market share. And so now a few things happened. So our overall market share kind of slowed in the past year. That's the 43% going up. Now we're still 10 times larger than the number 2. And there was some slowdown in some other platforms, including Wix and Shopify. Also, as I mentioned, I think last year or the year before, the data sources for these numbers have changed. So we were expecting a little bit of wonkiness, but I would say that this is actually correlated around a number of different sources. So my best thesis for why this is happening is, one, we need to create much more compelling e-commerce functionality and sort of ease of use in the WordPress community. Sort of our best in class there, whether it's from WooCommerce or other plugins, needs to be more slick and to compete with things like Shopify, which is doing a really good job. And two, it's what I talked about with the friction. So all these tools, there's been a lot more friction moving between things. Even within WordPress, like I said, we don't have a bulk migration tool to go from classic posts to blocks. You kind of have to do it one by one when you load it up to switch it to be Gutenberg native. And so basically ways to take every single block builder, every single thing out there, and convert it to Gutenberg blocks. Gutenberg can now support pretty much everything. And then as we do that, also say, like, point this at any website, or maybe even any arbitrary HTML, convert this to blocks. There's almost nothing that you can't build with blocks today. So creating migration paths for everything to blocks is going to be really, really powerful. And then the cool thing is, once it's into blocks in WordPress, there's a million ways to get it back out into other systems. We have the REST API, XMRPC API, we'll have exports, we'll have the GraphQL plugins. Like, there's so many different ways. So again, I think if we can get these things into WordPress, it will be amazing for sort of increasing the data portability, for getting them wherever you want it to go. And I believe that WordPress as a data store is also probably one that has the most legitimacy and chance of being something that will be well supported for decades to come. So I think that's really important. Okay, we've got a few. I can read some of these. It's all right. What would you like to eat, drink in WordCamp Asia 2024? Asked by the local team. I believe there's a type of pooled noodles that's really amazing in Taiwan, like a beef noodle thing. I don't even know the name off the top of my head, but when I've had that at restaurants before, it's been amazing. So like, I really love like soups, so maybe like soup noodle things. I'd really love that. Plans to take Automattic public in the future? Nothing to announce there, obviously. I think there's only been like 2 IPOs in the past year, so it would be great to have a way for more people to participate in ownership of Automattic, but that's just not really something that I think the markets are really well set up for right now. This is not a nice question, but it says, this company is doing lots of shady things like auto installs, data harvesting. Why does WordPress not take action on it? Well, one, I would say that it's not fair to say there aren't changes happening. And I have seen Automotive update a number of plugins already to roll back some things that might have been a little aggressive and they got some feedback on. As well, we're also always evolving the plugin guidelines. So one thing with growing the plugin review team, I think is also saying that we have our rules, and but there's lots of things that might not be covered by a specific rule that we just might think is a best practice, and we want to encourage in the plugin directory in the future. We have a lot of levers there around ranking or other things that we can do to sort of help plugin developers come on board with whatever the best practice for user experience is. So I don't think it's fair to call it this particular company. There's tons of plugins doing this, including Jetpack, that I think did some things that I think were, for example, putting notices on pages that aren't just a plugin. I think we're going to roll that back. So right now, plugins can add notices to kind of any page. I think in the future we're going to say you can add notices to your own page that your plugin has, but just adding them to other WordPress pages or other plugins pages is a no-no. So again, something well-intentioned. I kind of remember when that hook admin notice was first created. But obviously, over the past 20 years or 15 years since it was created, it's been kind of overused. So I think we can update guidelines and also give plugin developers a chance to comment on this, because maybe those notices are being driven by a real need, because they need people to finish setting up the plugin or they need to drive something. One thing I'm seeing a lot is people asking for reviews in these notices. Okay, maybe there's a different way we can solve that. So, I think not just saying hey, don't do this, but actually looking at the core need of why plugins feel the need to do this. Maybe there's a cleaner way we can address that. So for example, plugins need more reviews. Why? Because typically, the people who are drawn to review are the unhappy people. So a plugin might have millions of happy users that just don't take the time to go review. So how can we make it easier for those happy users to review as well? So you get a more balanced view in the star ratings of plugins on how a plugin actually is. So maybe we can make it so built into the WP admin, you could do a little star rating. Maybe we make it when you click update on a plugin, it can invite you to review it if you like it. And we can tie this into your WordPress.org profile. So there's no reason that we can't register your WordPress.org profile on your WP admin. So we could tie it to maybe your favorites and other things on WordPress.org, but also we know what you reviewed it already. If a plugin crashes your site, maybe we invite you to review it then. I don't know. All these are our options and ways to sort of look at the core need there, not just say, no, we shouldn't have these banners. So that's how I think about this going forward.
2 questions about multilingual. What about, will multisite see some love in phase 4? I think you said something in the presentation.
Yeah, I talked about multilingual, not multi-site. Multi-site is ongoing developed as part of WordPress, so it gets some love in literally every release of WordPress. And props to the multi-site team there. It will be interesting as we get further or closer to implementing native multilingual, how we decide to do that data structure, and whether we decide to implement it through something like multi-site, or we sort of extend the built-in WordPress tables. TBD, that is one of the things we're not sure about yet, and we'll be exploring before we enter phase 4.
Would you consider supporting Mastodon instead of X, which is there for a while?
Yeah, so I actually have a Mastodon account. I believe I'm Photomat on mastodon.social. I should have mentioned that. Also, I'm saying it because people thought it was someone impersonating me. So it's not, it's really me. I do have impersonators online, but that is not one of them. That one's actually me. And now you know for sure. And so, yeah, we can definitely, I don't know if we have a WordPress Mastodon account, but we can definitely do that if we haven't already.
Okay. There's another question.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Yeah.
Anything regarding localized websites, maybe automatically with AI, and making managing a multilingual website easier. It is true. So, I mean, these AI tools right now are typically run in the cloud. So something that would be a little tricky to support natively in WordPress. There are some really cool open source ones, but I don't think they are going to be easy to run in shared hosting environments. What's way more powerful when you think about the open source AI or other things is running it locally on your device. We all have these devices in our pocket, which have 1,000 times more compute power than the computer that put a man on the moon. And on our desktops, they're growing, the chips are getting faster, everything on our local devices. So I think we're going to see more of this processing go to the edge. I've actually been thinking about this a lot with how we do like thumbnail creation and stuff in WordPress, or convert between file formats. Is there a way we could actually now do that in the browser before you upload? So we could maybe push some of this processing actually to your computer. I think would be really, really, really cool. And stuff like Playground sort of create some frameworks for that. So also, how amazing would that be for all the hosts in the world, that now if you're generating 1,000 new thumbnails, you could just run something on your computer for 5 minutes versus spiking the server or getting your account throttled. So again, this is just a way, I think more computing at the edge is going to happen. It is possible, so I guess I'll say this, put this out here now, that the translation tools being built into operating systems and browsers are going to get so amazingly good that there will be less push for sort of creating human-created first-party translations of websites. I don't think it goes away at all, and there's lots of places where there might be like country regulations or something, or a business might want to create like a hand-translated website. But I wonder if sort of the community demand for this will go down, since there'll be such amazing things. Okay, I see some heads shaking, but let's see how this plays out over the next few years. Again, as someone myself who consumes a lot of the web, and I've been reading a lot of your Spanish tweets and everything like that, it's been really amazing for just built into the browser. I can just click translate into iOS, and like I get amazing real-time translations. I wonder if being built into OS or browser layer is going to just make the web a lot more accessible to all, and can happen in parallel to what we're doing in core.
Well, there are the three of them.
Cool.
So,
do we want to make this the last three? How are we doing on time?
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, at least one more. From Jose Arcos, for example, in the past year, some people have let or reduced their contribution. What are the plans to protect long-term contributors and make them feel safe?
Oh, yeah. I'll just kind of go through these. Paid themes, insights for Automattic Financial, and WP Tavern.
These are the new ones, but they are too fast. So.
Okay. For Automattic, we're building the company for the long term. So I'm happy to say that we're blessed with really great investors, and building a great business through subscribers. So hopefully we can keep creating things that are valuable for folks, and have a subscription model that that grows. And we're hiring. We're excited to grow the company, and don't feel any existential problems there. This question is about WP Tavern. This is true. This is something that is my fault. So I'm going to be hiring 2 new writers for WP Tavern. For those who don't know, WP Tavern is sort of a great community website with no sponsorships or ads or anything. That has been a great coverage of the WordPress community. We just had the retirement of Sarah Gooding, who's been a writer there for over the past 10 years. She is leaving very big shoes to fill. So we're actually going to hire 2 writers. And there's been some great applications. It's just on me in the preparation for State of the Word. And last week I had 2 board meetings and gave a talk and all this sort of stuff. I'm a little bit behind on that. But I will be looking at those applications and inviting some of those people to create some posts, sort of just on a freelance basis. And then we'll pick the 2 new writers for WP Tavern. So keep an eye out for that in the new year. Then one from Jose Arcos. Oh, thank you. I also would like to create some translations of WP Tavern, so I think that also could be pretty cool.
This one at the bottom, is headless WordPress a good choice? I think this is a topic that people is interested in, because the rest are the same.
Is headless WordPress a good choice? Well, one, I like to call it decoupled. Headless just sounds a little weird, right? I think it can be a good choice in certain sort of constraints. So as we saw with the interactivity API and this kind of demo website, one cool feature about it is it can play the video in the corner and as you navigate to pages, it's not reloading the page, so that video keeps playing. That's actually a great reason to do a more decoupled approach and have kind of a more JavaScript-based application talking to an API to get the content. Now that said, I believe that a lot of the companies in the Jamstack or headless space have really oversold the benefits of this. And so there's a lot of ways where it just can introduce a lot of complexity, and in some cases even worse performance than just serving a PHP file, or what they're now calling server-side rendering as the big new thing in some of these frameworks. So that's kind of built into how PHP works. And we're seeing with improvements in PHP processing and hosting and everything like that, just a core WordPress theme with WordPress can actually be incredibly performant. And some of those sites I talked about that are doing huge number of page views are actually just running that more integrated architecture versus creating something where you have lots of different services or pieces and apps talking to each other. So, but all of this, it goes to the needs of the customer, the needs of your website, and the needs of your users. So I would say if you're driving it from that point of view, there's many ways to build it, and WordPress is going to support all of them. So we want to be the most flexible tool for all developers, agencies, etc. I'll have my own opinions about when you should do these or not, but I'm also not building websites every day. So an agency or something else might understand something about their customer or their workflow for how they want to build it. So we're going to support it all.
What is your favorite WordPress block? Do you have any?
Yeah, the poetry block. I think we call it the prose block. Yeah. It's prose? Oh, verse. Yeah. Well, it's basically for poetry or prose, and it's a block that preserves the white space. So, many great poets throughout the years, like E.E. Cummings and others, like write poetry where the sort of spacing of it and the layout is really important. So, we have a block for that.
You talk about the location of WordCamp US, but do you have any clue about the dates? There is something in mind?
September what? Mid-September, I think the 16th through 19th. And I think we're going to do 2 days of contributor and 2 days of the events. Yep. We got a yes.
And of course, the omelet with onion and without onion. And if you know something in Spanish, Matt.
My high school Spanish teacher is going to watch this later and be so disappointed. I'll tell you a funny story about that. So I can actually understand a lot of Spanish. And that's, my best friend in Houston, Rene Arenales, his mom speaks Spanish to us. Growing up in Houston, in Texas, which is basically like northern Mexico, it's very much in the culture and everywhere. And so there was it wasn't a WordCamp, it was before WordCamps. But early on, when I was traveling to blogging conferences, I got to actually spend a few weeks in Buenos Aires. And I found particularly the slower way that people talk there. I don't know if that's accurate, but for me, and maybe it was just embedding it for a few weeks, I actually got much better. Also, I will say that I'm the only one in my family who's not pretty fluent in Spanish. My sister, if you talk to her, actually her job used to be completely bilingual. And before I was born, my sister, mom, and dad used to live in Mexico City. So
wow. This
is all the reasons I should be fluent, or should be able to say something more than donde baño or something. Hermana, my sister? Yeah, of course. See? I love my sister. Hermana Mariosa? Marviosa. Oh, my sister is marvelous. Yeah. Yes. Is that what I said? Yeah? Okay, great. So maybe this is why I haven't learned it. I have such great translators everywhere. But it's back to high school Spanish. And we'll end here. So just with a fun little story for y'all. I'm in my high school Spanish class. And already at this time, I was kind of spending all my time on computers, and I was doing jazz, and I was really just doing the bare minimum in each class to get by. And so for the Spanish class, I was just kind of getting by, but the teacher was like, well, you can do an extra credit project to get more points, and I think it would raise me from like a C to a B or something. And you can actually see this website still online. So on GeoCities, I created a website dedicated to Colombia. they shut down GeoCities, but there was a way to migrate it to a domain. So actually at saxmat02, so sax like saxophone, S-A-X, MATT02.com, you can see my old GeoCities site. And there's this page on Columbia, a little mini site. I made it using Microsoft Front Page. I must have been like 16 at the time. It used to have some widgets on it, the little counters or guest books or things. And why was it Colombia? Because my father actually worked in Colombia for about a year. And so it was the first country I ever visited outside of the US was went to Bogota for a few weeks. And so piecing together like stuff from encyclopedias and stuff on the web. I think I used Microsoft Encarta, if someone remembers that. I sort of created this web page that's all about Colombia. So it's still online. You can check it out. It hasn't changed much in the past 20-something years, or at all. 2001 is when I made it. Okay, so... last time it was updated in 2001. I actually just went up and updated the email address on this site just a few days ago. But yeah, you can see it, and that is how I passed Spanish in high school. So I kind of get by making websites.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you all. This has been so amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, State of the War is coming to an end. Thank you for being here.
But now's the fun part, because I feel sorry for you all streaming, but in person, we're now going to celebrate in person. So we're going to have a lot of fun here. And thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, there were projects
yes,
that we didn't,
yes.
There were questions we didn't get to. So on /project, make.wordpress.org/project, we are going to answer the questions that we didn't have a chance to get to right here. Unless they're about high school Spanish, in which case we're going to skip those. But thank you all. This has been so amazing. Thank you, Madrid.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.